I would say that the interpersonal sexual dynamics might be the worst they've ever been, but I also think that feminism and single mom caused that.
That's an interesting. Why do you think that caused it?
Because all the stats show that every single rate that you can imagine a metric, which is horrific on young men, usually comes from single mother homes. We're talking everything from homelessness on up.
Like
almost everything.
Is another term for single mother homes fatherless homes?
Sure.
So why do you put it on women?
Because it's usually women who initiate being in the fatherless relationship, not men.
And why do they initiate being in a fatherless relationship?
The number one answer from women is that irreconcilable differences.
So do you know anyone, a woman in your life that's ever been divorced?
Sure.
Do they say, hey, we got divorced because we couldn't reconcile our differences, or do they say another reason?
Usually, well, I mean, they have all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, but they don't say we couldn't reconcile our differences, right?
If you go anywhere where women are speaking about the divorces, such as TikTok, YouTube, what's the first thing they talk about? Irreconcilable differences. The real number one reason for divorce is lack of communication. Lack of communication pretty much is an irreconcilable difference. This guy comes on this podcast, but he has no idea what he's talking about, you know. He just came on this podcast basically to bash and defend women. He honestly, I don't think he has any facts. Like, as this debate goes on, you're going to see, like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. He has no rebuttals for anything. The only thing he's going to do, and a common theme you're going to see, is he just blames men for all the problems in the world. And he never once, through the whole podcast, blames a woman.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what's your point?
Why do you use that as the reason women are getting divorced?
Because that's the reason they give, is irreconcilable differences.
That's the reason they give in court, but what do they give in real life? What's the real reason women leave people?
They have a varying degree of things, but here's what's not happening. What they're not actually giving in real life is, he was abusing me, he was beating me up, he was doing this, he was doing that. Usually,
do you know the top 3 reasons women file for divorce?
Tell me.
Infidelity, emotional neglect, and poor communication, followed by finances.
What's the top 3, though?
That's what the top 3 I just said.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, the
yes,
top 3 is not infidelity.
Yes, infidelity, emotional neglect, and poor communication, followed by finances.
Oh, so what's the number 1 reason?
I just said infidelity.
At this point, this guy doesn't even have an argument. He's trying to blame men for everything. Like, women file for divorce over 50% of the time. Not only do they file for divorce, but the reasons they file for divorce is often ridiculous, you know, and it shows right here. Like, nothing else needs to be said about it.
I just said
infidelity is number 1 reason?
Correct.
Okay. Which one of these studies proves that?
Did you bring any studies?
Just tell me which one proves
You know
it.
what? Don't say any facts for the rest of this debate if you're not going to show me a study. How about that?
Bro, listen.
Don't show. No more facts. No more facts.
You got to stop interrupting him.
Dude,
every time
did I make?
You literally were interrupting.
Did I make?
Your boy. You
did I make the claim, or did you?
It's called moderating the show. Mm-hmm. You've been interrupting the entire time.
Okay.
If Andrew interrupts you, I'll say the same thing to him.
Yeah, but just real quick, did you make the claim or did I make the claim?
I made the claim.
Okay, great. Can you show it?
I don't have the data point in front of me, but I looked it up prior to this, and you can do it after.
Okay.
Once again, no facts, no argument. He's just on here interrupting at this point, and like, what's your point? Like, he doesn't get to a point. Like, he's telling him to show him facts, but he has no facts of his own. He's the one providing an argument. He's the one challenging this whole show, and he came on the show with no facts. How is this possible, you know? He must be hanging around too many women. It's crazy.
What if we do it now?
Go for it.
Okay.
Sure.
And where can I find this data? I'd like to.
Around.
No, you looked it up
I have
before.
a lot of data, man. I don't know exactly each source where I got it from.
Before.
This is more about single mothers. You can look at that one if you want to talk about single motherhood.
Yeah, we can get into that. But again, This is just wild to me. I thought you were going to tell me that that was the number one reason.
Okay, well, you can't use any facts if you don't have any data.
The number
to
one
back it
reason
up.
that I'm seeing is lack of commitment.
Well, that's infidelity and
No,
also emotional
no, it's
neglect.
not.
Okay. What does lack of commitment mean to you, Andrew?
I have no idea what it means. You tell me.
Of course
What
you
is
don't,
lack
but it's
of
not
commitment?
infidelity, right? Because
He's made the point strong here. He has literally no argument. He's just coming here to white knight anyone who's not a male. Anytime men stand up for themselves, people like this hate it. Anytime they tell women something, he hates it. Lack of commitment, all that means, that could mean anything. The guy's not home. It could mean the guy's not doing what she wants, or he's not showing her enough love. He's not doing the dishes or something. She's doing too much work at home. That's lack of commitment. He wants to automatically bring it to infidelity to prove his point that he doesn't even have.
you're the one who said it was irreconcilable differences.
That's the number one reason they file divorces. Is
Yeah,
what
but
I
that's
said.
not the reason people actually file for divorce.
Okay, so the reasons that they give, you're saying that the number one reason women give is infidelity.
Infidelity, emotional neglect, and poor communication.
Okay, where can I find the statistic?
I don't remember, man. I brought all the statistics. You didn't bring any.
I didn't need to bring any.
Yeah, because you're making shit up.
What am I making up?
Anything you say, because you can't prove
Bro,
it.
what have I said that I made up?
About the finances that...
How do I make something up when I say I don't know for sure?
Okay, well, you said it's significant.
That is true. It is significant.
Okay, well, how can you prove that?
Well, what does significant mean? Let's see. Statistically, let's just see if we can find this. I am not seeing infidelity as the number one answer on any of these.
Okay.
Number one reason I'm seeing is financial problems.
That's not the number one reason. And you've also said it's not the number one reason. You've
That's
said
what
that.
I'm seeing.
Okay.
But I'm ready for a counterfactual.
Okay, fine. Let's just concede that I don't know what I'm talking about. The point is, it's not irreconcilable differences. People file for a reason.
Well, we're talking past each other because we were talking about divorce.
Right.
And I said that they file for irreconcilable differences.
Right.
You asked for the meaning behind the irreconcilable difference. I'm fine with that. I just don't think it's infidelity. I think that's incorrect. And when I just looked, it is. You made the claim that it is, but you can't tell me where
But
I
you're
can find that data.
blaming women for filing for divorce, making it sound like it's just some fly-by-the-night thing they decided to do. There's typically a reason, and you read some
I'm
of
not
them.
saying that there's not reasons.
Okay,
The question.
then why do you blame women for single motherhood?
The question is whether or not there's good. Well, first of all, can you be a single mother and never be married?
Sure, but where's the father in this scenario?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: don't courts adjust towards women even when they aren't married?
Do you know 1 in 3 children born out of wedlock don't see their father past the age of 3? Did you know that?
Why?
You tell me.
I'm waiting.
No, you tell me. If you,
Why do I need to tell you when I ask you a question? Why?
Because single motherhood is not just a female problem.
Okay, but why do they not have access?
Because
to the
men
child?
tend to abandon children.
Here it is again. Can't let a woman have any accountability. We as sensible people know that the reason children don't see their fathers is usually because the mother takes the children away. Of course, there's men that abandon their children, but it's less likely, more than likely, custody is given to the mother instead of the father, and he has to go to court and fight. This is ridiculous. Like, people like, I can't even believe people like this exist, but here you see him right here, you know.
Can you demonstrate that?
I think I just did.
How?
33% of children don't see their father past the age of 3
Yeah,
out of
but
wedlock.
that doesn't prove that it's because the men don't want to.
Okay, how many men file for custody of the child in child court?
I don't know the stats off the top of my head. We can look.
95% of them are filed without contest from the father, and the 4% that do typically do get it. So if 95% of men aren't fighting for the child, I think you can look at men for the problem.
Oh, I see. Okay, so let's back up. Tell me something. Who can actually have children, men or women?
Women.
Okay. Are these women being raped?
No.
Okay, so they have the responsibility of making sure that they don't get pregnant, right?
I think 2 people have the responsibility to make sure they don't get somebody pregnant as well.
But do you agree with me that it is the case that most men will sleep with most women, but most women won't sleep with most men?
So what?
So if that's the case, right, then women have greater access than men do, don't they?
Sure.
So if that's the case, why are they granting access to men who abandon their kids?
How do they know they're going to abandon their kids?
Well, hang on. That's so weird, though. Wait a second. Let's back up.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who have the sexual access, right? So if they don't know, why are they sleeping with these men? They're the ones who get pregnant, not the men.
And men are the ones that get them pregnant.
Yeah. But so what?
They're a part of the equation.
So what?
That's a part of the equation.
Yeah, but women are the ones who get to access that.
And men are the ones that access it.
Okay. Can men have abortions?
No.
Can men force women to have abortions?
No.
Do you believe women should be able to have abortions?
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, right, that you believe women ought to be able to have abortions, men ought not to have any say on whether or not women have abortions, then women are the ones who ultimately have 100% access around reproduction, not men.
So men have no responsibility in your eyes?
How could they have a responsibility if they're not allowed to make the choice of if the child's even here or not?
If you got somebody pregnant, would you abandon them?
Do I form a secular worldview or do I form a Christian one?
Do Christian people abandon their children?
No.
No, they don't. All Christians are perfect?
No. Under Christian ethics, you're not to abandon your children.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I think if this guy admits the truth, he's gonna ruin his little program he's trying to sell to these women. He's trying to sell them that he's like a hero to them. Men are bad. You don't need to be accountable. Like, if you just listen to what he's saying, it's utterly ridiculous. Like, so many men lose their children because they have no reproductive rights. But yet he thinks that it's all men's fault that these children are born. Or that they should be even responsible for taking care of these children.
So only secular people abandon their children.
No, that's not what I said. What did I just say?
Christian ethics bans you from...
Under Christian ethics,
Right.
you ought not do that.
Right.
Is ought not the same as do they don't?
Should anyone do that?
Do I think so?
Yeah.
Under Christian ethics, no.
Even secular. Do you think people should? Even if you're secular, do
Under
you
Christian
think people
ethics,
should?
I don't think secular people should.
And
no.
I think secular people also don't think they should abandon their children. So
Okay.
what's the point?
But they can kill them.
I don't think it's killing.
Oh, I know, right?
We're not gonna have-
You don't think it's killing?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's
Okay,
not.
got it. They kill them, but they think that they
It's not
shouldn't
killing.
abandon them.
It's not. That's
I
a
don't
horrible
see-
framing. That's a
I
horrible
don't see
framing.
a great compelling reason here. If the idea is that that these women they're getting knocked up, they're the ones who have complete and total access to who sleeps with them. They're not getting raped, and they have the choice as to whether or not they abort or not abort. Yeah.
But someone also was.
But does the
another-
man have a choice?
The man was.
Does the man have a
has
choice?
a choice to not impregnate a woman.
Now,
yes.
what if the man?
The man has a choice to not
Does
impregnate
the
a
man
woman?
have the choice
yes.
to keep the baby?
Not if the woman
Does the
doesn't
man
want
have
to.
the choice to make the woman pay him child support and keep the baby?
How much is the average child support?
Can you answer my
payment?
question?
No.
I just went.
How much is
no, no. Answer my fucking
said no.
question.
I just said no.
Okay. Let's back up.
How about you listen?
Yeah. Okay, let's back up. Well, I said, can you answer my question? And you said no. You could see how I could perceive that as you saying, I'm not going to answer your question, right?
Yes. No.
Even
To
the
your original
moderator thought
question.
that was the case. Okay, so let's back up. You do believe that it is the case that men can't force women to have their children.
Correct.
But women can force men to take care of their children.
That's correct.
Okay, how is that fair?
I'm not saying it's fair.
Okay, so then what is the so then if men didn't want to have that child, why should they be held to account, take care of it?
Because it's their child.
What?
Because it is their child.
I'm super confused, but they didn't have a say.
Doesn't matter. It's their child.
Should they be able to have a say?
I don't think so.
But you just said it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. So what? They had a child. That's their child. They should take care of it and not abandon it.
So, okay, so to get this right, then women should be able to kill men's children if they want, right?
It's not framing it as killing. They should-
Hang on, or keep them if they want, and the man has to pay child support for the child.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
And you think women should get to make that choice?
100%.
Why should we let women make that choice?
Because they're the ones that have to, conceive.
So, got it. So they're the ones who have to conceive. So they're the ones making the choice.
Yep.
So therefore, it's their responsibility. Anything else?
No, because the
No?
father is
No?
also part of the responsibility.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who's making the choice?
They can have the child, but the father should take care of their child. And you don't disagree with that, do you?
Wait.
Do you disagree with that or not? Do you disagree that
I
the
can't
father
justify
should
it
take
from a
care of the
secular
child?
angle.
Why not?
Because it makes no sense to
It
me.
makes total sense. If you have a
Okay, well,
child,
let's
you should
try
take
this.
care of it.
Well, let's try this again. I just walked you through the logic, though.
Fuck the logic. I'm asking
the
you,
logic? What?
do you think a secular person should take care of the child that they have?
Does a Christian think that? Of course.
And you don't think secular people do?
Well, I can't see how secularists could justify it. No, not if you're making the claim. So you made the claim. Here,
From my worldview, if you have
Yeah.
a child, you should take care of it.
Why?
Period.
Why?
Because that's my worldview.
okay, why though?
Because it's your child. You,
Well,
you are
justify it
part
for
of it.
me.
I don't need to justify it
Right,
for you.
because when we walk around the logic, here's what we end up with. You say women have complete and total access, should be able to kill a man's kid, right? Or should be able to bring it to bear and make sure that the man takes care of the kid, but the man can't tell the woman that she has to have the kid
correct.
even when she's pregnant,
That's
right?
correct. And if there's a child in the
And
world
that's
that
correct.
man contributed to, he should take care of it.
Okay, so just to make sure that we got this right, it's an uneven standard
Yeah,
for men versus
sure.
women.
If that's the world we live in,
Yeah, so justify why it is that men shouldn't say, fuck that.
I don't need to.
Yeah, okay. Well, then, when you ask me, Andrew, don't you think X? And I say, well, yeah.
you say, I can't
and when
fathom
I
it from
say,
a secular
when
point
I
of
say
view.
from a secular point of view, I actually can't answer the justification. Just remember that neither can you.
And I would say most secular people also believe you should take care of a child
Yeah,
if you're the
from
one
the
that
Christian
had it.
ethical angle, of course you're supposed to take care of your children. But from the Christian ethical angle, it's also completely appropriate, right, to put significant pressure on women to not have abortions, meaning men get a say in the choice, right?
Well, what's wild to me is that you're complaining about single motherhood, and then you're sitting here saying, "Well, men should say fuck it," which is just wild. That men should say fuck it if they
When
want
did
to.
I say when?
You said so. Men should say fuck it,
No,
right?
I'm sorry. Do you know what an ought is versus a descriptor? What's an ought?
An ought is I don't know.
Did I
actually.
say that secular men ought do that, or did I say I can't think of a justification?
You can't think of a justification.
And
but
neither can
also,
you.
But you also don't think single motherhood is a good thing, correct?
That's correct.
So why don't you encourage men to take care of the children?
Should we force them to?
I think so.
Okay, so you think that we should force men to take care of the kids?
Correct. That's what child support is.
But no, that's not. Well, that is true that they take it by force, I guess.
Yeah, that's what you said.
But what I'm talking about force is like, should we make them participate as a father?
Yes.
We should force that.
And so, as long as the court rules that they should, yes.
No, that's different. I'm not asking about what the court rules. I'm asking, do you think we should force men to participate?
I think they should force at least child support. And if
No,
the
no,
father,
that's not my question.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Should they force men to participate in being a father?
No.
Being a father,
No.
No.
Not if the father. If the father's going to be a shitty father, then no.
Can you explain to me how it is that if the woman can get child support from the guy,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you are not going to force any participation, aren't you pushing single motherhood?
No, you're blaming women for single motherhood.
Yeah.
And you're saying
They're the ones who
fathers-
have all the choice by your own admission.
But the fathers have no part to play in it. And single motherhood
If it is
fathers
the
have no
case
part to
that
play.
fathers can't make the determination as to whether or not they can even have the kid, and only the woman can, you hold an uneven playing field. I have at least a consistent view that women should not be allowed to abort, and men ought to actually be made to participate in their own children's life. That's my consistent worldview. Your worldview is inconsistent.
Okay.
You're
That's
making
inconsistent.
yeah,
I'm
it's
sitting
totally
here-
inconsistent.
I said that if a man
you're,
has
no,
a
you're
child,
just giving privilege to women.
If a man
Yeah.
has a child, they should take care of it. Do they? That's a different story.
If
I'm
women
saying
have,
they should.
If women have children, should they take care of it?
Yeah.
Can they give it up for adoption?
Sure.
Okay. Can the man make the woman give, or why can't the man give up his parental rights and just walk away? If the woman can.
If the woman does, then he can.
Well, wait, that's really weird. I don't get it. If it is the case that the mother has guardianship of the father's child, she can still put the child up for adoption, right?
Sure.
Okay, but he can't.
If he has guardianship of the child, he can.
If he has guardianship,
Well,
right?
so he can too,
But if
then.
she's a single mom, what gives him guardianship?
Well, he doesn't have guardianship. I'm saying if a father has guardianship,
Yeah.
he can also put up the child for adoption. It's not just a mother
Yeah,
thing.
but who does it default to?
Why does it default to women?
Because that's the way the system is set.
How is it set that way?
Because it has become matrilineal rather than patrilineal.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means from the father or from the mother.
No, I know the definition. You always use those
it
words.
means that
but
the
why,
property,
but
the
why
property,
is the family court?
Yeah.
Why is it giving
because
it to the women?
feminists have made huge pushes in order to make it that way.
Feminists have pushed that women get custody of the child.
Yeah.
Are most judges in family court men or women?
And family court, they're men.
And so they're
I'm
influenced
sorry.
by feminists.
I'm sorry. Wait a second. Are you saying that men can't be feminists?
I'm saying that I doubt that the majority of family court.
Are you saying that men can't be feminists?
I'm saying that I doubt all the family court judges are so influenced by
Do
feminism.
family court judges have to adhere to the law, or do they make the law?
I'm not sure if they make the law or not.
They have to adhere to the law. They don't make it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So family court judges are just adhering to the law, right?
And what's the law say?
Yeah, the law. So here's what happened. We used to have what are called coverture laws. Coverture laws actually forced men to take care of their families. That very same thing that you want, right? Of course, this also made children their property, and women, right, were also part of the man then, right? That was how it went. But guess what? They had to take care of their family or they went to fucking jail. That's what happened. Marriages stayed together about 95%. And then you know what happened? Feminists really pushed real fucking hard for the average default laws. And here's what the average default laws were. Oh, the average default laws were saying basically, on average, the default's going to go to women, right? Now, there's a whole series of laws I can pull up and go through. But yes, this was pushed by feminists so that there was default laws which pushed literally that women by default had custody. Yes, that is correct.
That is not how it works, because if a father tries to get custody of the child, they often do get it. But most
they do now.
Oh, so feminists have failed then?
No, bro. There's been, since men's rights movement started, especially in about the mid-2000s, there have been reforms to the laws. Male custody has quadrupled because of men's rights advocacy groups. And yes, quadrupled. And yes, I can grab you that stat if you want it.
I'm not saying
it has quadrupled because these laws have now begun to get rolled back. But it used to actually just be a straight default. Default.
How long? Because my understanding of this is most fathers aren't filing for custodial guardianship of the child.
You have to understand that you're looking at it from a historic prism that doesn't make any sense. You're talking about modern laws and the way that modern custody arrangements happen. It wasn't always this case. The case used to be actually that children went to the men. That was the old laws under coverture laws, right? That changed with feminism and radical feminism pushing for those laws to be changed.
So you're saying there was a time when the children were raised, there were more single fathers than single mothers?
No, there just wasn't really any erosion of marriage.
Okay, then why did you say that? Why did you make that point? You made the point that back in the day, men were getting custody of the children, but then there were still more single mothers.
No, there wasn't very many single mothers either.
Okay, but they outnumbered the single fathers.
No, there wasn't. Listen, these marriages stayed together, but under the law, it was true under the coverture laws that the child was the property or was at least associative property to the father, yes.